What if tomorrow morning you woke up and every drive-through lane in your neighborhood was chained shut? What if the last place you could grab a hot meal for under $10 just vanished? Not with a warning, not with a goodbye, just empty parking lots, faded signs, and the haunting silence where sizzling grills used to be. This isn't some dystopian fantasy. It's happening right now. In the past 18 months alone, over 6,500 fast food locations across America have permanently closed their doors. These aren't small mom-and-pop shops. These are billion-dollar empires, household names, places you've trusted your entire life. And they're falling faster than anyone predicted. Papa John's shuttering hundreds of stores, Wendy's bleeding money, even the mighty Burger King teetering on the edge. But here's the truly terrifying part. When these giants collapse, they don't just take burgers and fries with them. They take jobs. They take communities. They take the last affordable meal option from people who are already drowning. So, what happens when even fast food becomes unaffordable? When the dollar menu costs $8? When automation replaces every human face? Who is this system really serving anymore? Today, we expose 8 fast food giants that might not make it through 2026. This is the Downturn Report, where the truth doesn't just inform you, it changes you. Number 1. Papa John's. What if the pizza you ordered for Friday night never arrives because the store you've called for 10 years doesn't exist anymore? Papa John's isn't just struggling, it's suffocating. Since 2019, the chain has closed over 350 locations, with no signs of slowing down. The company that once promised better ingredients, better pizza, is now scrambling just to keep the ovens on. Franchise owners are walking away, unable to pay the crushing costs of operation, while corporate squeezes them for every last dollar. But this isn't just about pizza. It's about what Papa John's represented. For working families, it was the Friday night treat that didn't break the bank. For kids' birthday parties when Chuck E. Cheese was too expensive. For single parents pulling double shifts who just needed something hot, filling and familiar waiting at home. It was ritual. It was comfort. It was proof that you could still afford something special. Now, that comfort is crumbling. The delivery driver who knew your order by heart, gone. Replaced by gig workers with no loyalty, no smile, no connection. The local franchise that sponsored your kid's Little League team, shuttered. The place where you picked up carry-out on the way home from work, dark windows, empty shelves, a for lease sign swinging in the wind. And here's the cruel irony. While Papa John's locations vanish, the CEO's salary stays in the millions. Corporate profits get protected. But the teenager working the register to save for college, the single mom managing the night shift, they show up one morning to locked doors and unpaid final paychecks. No warning, no severance, just another casualty of a system that values shareholders over people. In neighborhoods where Papa John's was one of the only food options after 9 p.m., its disappearance isn't just inconvenient, it's isolating. It's one more light going out in communities already forgotten by everyone else. And when you can't even get a pizza delivered anymore, what does that say about where we're headed? Number 2. Wendy's. What happens when the girl at the drive-thru who always remembers your name isn't there anymore? What happens when she's replaced by a screen that doesn't smile, doesn't care, and doesn't see you? Wendy's is hemorrhaging. In 2024 alone, the chain announced plans to close over 150 underperforming locations, with whispers of hundreds more on the chopping block. Sales are plummeting. Customer loyalty is eroding. And the brand that built itself on fresh, never-frozen beef is now frozen in time, unable to compete with faster, cheaper, flashier rivals. But underneath the balance sheets and quarterly reports, something far more human is dying. Wendy's was never the fanciest option. It wasn't gourmet, but it was real. The Frosty that cost $1 and made a bad day bearable. The Baconator that felt like an indulgence you could actually afford. The chili that tasted like someone's grandma made it in a slow cooker. For millions of Americans, Wendy's was the middle ground. Not as processed as McDonald's. Not as expensive as Five Guys. Just solid, dependable there. A place where you could sit in the dining room without feeling rushed. Where the person at the counter treated you like a neighbor, not a transaction. Now, that middle ground is disappearing. Wendy's is cutting staff, replacing cashiers with kiosks, removing dining rooms entirely in some locations. The message is clear. Serve yourself. Speed up. Get out. We don't have time for you anymore. And for elderly customers who don't own smartphones, who struggle with touchscreens, who just wanted to order from a real person. This isn't progress. This is exile. This is being told you no longer matter in the world that's racing past you. There's something deeply cruel about watching a place that once valued you decide you're no longer worth the effort. When even Wendy's, with its square burgers and sassy Twitter account, can't survive without cutting out the humanity, what hope is left for the rest of us? Number 3. Burger King. Imagine walking into your childhood, the place where your dad took you after soccer games, the booth where you had your first job interview, the parking lot where you learned to drive. Now imagine it's gone. Not renovated, not rebranded, just erased. Burger King is collapsing in slow motion. Over 400 locations have closed since 2022 and the pace is accelerating. Once a powerhouse that rivaled McDonald's, Burger King now feels like a ghost. Outdated restaurants with peeling paint, grills that can't keep up with demand, drive-through lines that move slower than traffic. A brand that forgot how to compete and is now paying the price. But this isn't just about flame-broiled beef. It's about what Burger King meant to the people who grew up with it. For Gen Xers, it was the Whopper. For millennials, it was the chicken fries. For every generation, it was the place that felt rebellious, cheeky, different from the polished perfection of McDonald's. Burger King was the underdog, the scrappy fighter, the chain that didn't take itself too seriously. And for working-class families, it was affordable rebellion, a place where you could feel like you were treating yourself without checking your bank account first. Now, as more Burger Kings vanish, something intangible vanishes with them. Memories, traditions, the ritual of pulling into that familiar parking lot after a long week and knowing exactly what you'd order. The comfort of routine in a world that never stops changing. And for the communities left behind, the closure of a Burger King isn't just about losing a restaurant. It's about losing jobs, losing foot traffic that supported other businesses, losing a gathering place where people from different walks of life sat side by side, united by nothing more than hunger and a craving for something flame-broiled. When Burger King dies, it won't be with a bang. It'll be with the quiet hum of an empty fryer, the dark glow of a sign that no longer lights up, the fading memory of a jingle that once made you smile, and the aching realization that another piece of your past is never coming back. Number 4. Popeyes. What if the last place in your neighborhood serving real actual chicken just disappeared overnight? Popeyes is in crisis. Despite its famous chicken sandwich revival in 2019, the chain is now struggling to keep stores open. Dozens of locations have shuttered quietly in the past year, with franchise owners citing impossible operating costs, supply chain nightmares, and a corporate structure that prioritizes expansion over sustainability. But here's what the boardrooms don't see. Popeyes wasn't just chicken. It was culture. It was soul. It was the taste of Louisiana in landlocked states that would never see the bayou. It was spice, heat, flavor that didn't apologize for itself. It was unapologetically bold in a fast food world obsessed with bland, safe, predictable. For Black communities especially, Popeyes held a special place. It was representation in an industry dominated by clowns and kings and colonels. It was a taste of home when home was 1,000 miles away. It was Sunday dinner when Sunday got too busy. It was proof that fast food could have flavor, could have soul, could have pride. Now, as Popeyes struggles, those communities feel the loss most acutely. Because when Popeyes closes, it's not just chicken that disappears, it's jobs in neighborhoods that desperately need them. It's a gathering place for families who can't afford sit-down restaurants. It's the smell of something delicious cutting through air that too often smells like nothing but exhaust and neglect. And the cruelty doesn't stop there. In food deserts, urban and rural areas where fresh, affordable food is already scarce, the closure of a Popeyes often means one less option entirely. Not one less choice among many. One less, period. What remains? Gas station hot dogs, convenience store chips, vending machine desperation. Popeyes taught America that fast food didn't have to be boring. That chicken could be crispy, spicy, unforgettable. That you could feel proud of where you ate, even if you only had $5. And as that lesson fades, replaced by sterile efficiency and cost-cutting measures, we lose more than a restaurant. We lose a piece of culinary identity. We lose flavor. We lose joy. Number 5. Arby's. What if the only place that still served actual roast beef just gave up? Arby's has been on life support for years, Since 2020, the chain has quietly closed over 100 locations, with many more barely hanging on. The slogan, quote, 2 rings hollow when you pull up to a drive-thru with only 2 cars in line, and a, quote, 3 sign that's been up for 8 months. The problem isn't the food. The roast beef is still decent. The curly fries still iconic. But Arby's committed the cardinal sin of fast food. It became forgettable. In a world where Chick-fil-A lines wrap around the block and Chipotle dominates lunch hours, Arby's just exists. No innovation, no energy, no reason to choose it over the 10 other options within walking distance. But for the people who loved Arby's, and yes, they exist, its decline feels personal. For truck drivers on long hauls, Arby's was the one place that served something resembling a real meal. For construction workers on lunch break, it was filling, fast, and didn't taste like it came from a microwave. For retirees on fixed incomes, it was affordable protein that didn't feel like punishment. Arby's represented something rare in fast food: substance, not flash, not gimmicks, just meat, bread, and the promise that you'd leave satisfied. That simplicity, once its strength, became its weakness, because in 2026 simplicity doesn't trend. Simplicity doesn't go viral. Simplicity doesn't survive. And so, as Arby's fades, we lose another option. Another place where you could just get food without the performance, without the app, without the loyalty program and the upsell and the limited time only pressure. Just food. Just sustenance. Just enough. When even, quote, 4 becomes too much to sustain. What does that say about the system we've built? Number 6. Sonic Drive-In. What happens when the last place you can eat in your car really eat, not just grab and go, vanishes? Sonic is struggling. The chain has closed over 100 locations since 2022, with franchise owners drowning in debt and customers increasingly choosing faster, cheaper alternatives. The drive-in model that once felt retro cool now feels outdated. The car hop service that once charmed now feels inefficient. And in a world obsessed with speed, Sonic's leisurely vibe has become a liability. But here's what the spreadsheets miss. Sonic wasn't about speed. It was about staying, about pulling into a stall, pressing a button, and waiting for someone to roller skate your order out to you. It was theater. It was nostalgia. It was the feeling of being in a 1950s movie, even if just for 20 minutes. For families road tripping across Middle America, Sonic was a destination. For teenagers with nowhere else to go, it was a hangout. For people with mobility issues who couldn't easily walk into a restaurant, it was accessibility. You could eat a meal without leaving your car, without fighting crowds, without rushing. Sonic represented a slower America. A version of this country that believed you deserved to sit for a moment, to enjoy your cherry limeade, to watch the sunset from your driver's seat while your kids demolished tater tots in the back. Now, as Sonic dies, that slower America dies with it. What replaces it? Drive-thrus designed for maximum throughput. Orders barked through crackling speakers. Meals consumed at 70 miles per hour, one hand on the wheel. Ketchup dripping onto your lap. When there's no place left to pause, where do we catch our breath? Number 7. Long John Silver's. What if fried fish just disappeared from fast food entirely? Long John Silver's is on its last breath. The chain now operates fewer than 600 locations, down from over 1,200 in its heyday. Most Americans under 30 have never even heard of it. For those who remember, it's a punchline, a relic, a place their grandparents ate at once. But dismiss it if you want. That dismissal is exactly why it's dying, because Long John Silver's served a purpose. It was the only fast food chain dedicated to seafood. The only place where someone in landlocked Kansas could get fried fish on a Friday. The only option for people observing religious dietary restrictions who didn't want another grilled chicken sandwich. For Catholic families during Lent, Long John Silver's was tradition. For elderly folks who grew up on fish fries, it was memory. For people who simply liked fish more than burgers, it was the singular option in a sea of sameness. And now it's disappearing. Not because the food got worse, not because of scandal, but because it dared to be different in an industry that rewards conformity. Because it served fish when everyone else served beef. Because it was niche in a world that only values mass appeal. The loss of Long John Silver's isn't just about fish. It's about the erasure of choice. About an industry consolidating around the same 5 menu items. About a country that claims to value diversity while systematically eliminating anything that doesn't fit the mold. Number 8. Hardee's/Carl's Jr. What if the last place serving a truly huge, unapologetically indulgent burger just gave up and went home? Hardee's and Carl's Jr., two brands, one dying company, are in freefall. Over 200 locations have closed in the past 3 years. The remaining stores feel abandoned, sparse crowds, tired staff, menus that haven't changed in a decade. These were the chains that didn't apologize, that served massive burgers dripping with grease and didn't pretend they were health food, that marketed to hungry working men who needed calories, not virtue signaling, that understood sometimes you just want a ridiculous amount of meat between two buns. But that honesty became a liability. In an era of plant-based alternatives and calorie-counting apps and wellness culture, Hardee's and Carl's Jr. refused to evolve. They stayed true to their roots, and the market punished them for it. For the people who love these chains, construction workers, truckers, farmers, laborers, the closures sting, because Hardee's and Carl's Jr. were built for them, served them without judgment, gave them fuel for 12-hour days without lecturing them about antioxidants. Now, as these chains collapse, those workers are left with options designed for someone else. Smaller portions, pricier meals, menus catering to coastal tastes that don't reflect their lives. When even the working-class burger joint can't survive, who is fast food really for anymore? This isn't just about 8 restaurant chains failing. This is about the systematic dismantling of accessibility, affordability, and community. These weren't perfect companies. They served processed food. They paid minimum wage. They cut corners. But they also served people. Real people. People who couldn't afford better. People who needed something hot and fast and cheap. People who built memories in those booths, who found jobs in those kitchens, who felt human in those parking lots. And as they disappear, they take something irreplaceable with them. Not just meals, but dignity, routine, the belief that even with empty pockets you still deserve to eat something warm. So what comes next? What replaces them? Ghost kitchens with no dining rooms, apps with no human contact, AI-generated meals delivered by drones. Is that progress? Or is that just a more efficient way to forget about the people who can't keep up? Have you watched your local fast food spot close? Did you lose a job when the restaurant shut down? Tell us your story. Because this video isn't about corporations, it's about you. It's always been about you.